Test, 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 test. How you doing? I don't know. Can you hear me? Test, test. Sort of on. Sort of test. All right. All right. How you doing, Trey? All right. All right. All right. All right. Good morning, class. Good morning. Good. Good morning. How you doing? Good morning, class. Good morning. Good morning. You got a pen? Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. I will give your pen back to you. I will be sure to give your pen back to you. Good morning, class. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Here you. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Welcome everyone to our adult Bible class. It is a little bit after 9 o'clock, and so we are here. You made it. You survived the torrential rains to make it here this morning. So welcome to all of you, and to those who are participating with our class online this morning. Welcome to you as well. We have been studying now for many months the theme "Walking with Jesus," where we have been tracking Jesus's ministry in chronological order and looking at all of the places where he has done any teaching at all. And we're winding that series down. So here we are in February. We've been doing this for almost 2 years, but next month in March, we will shift our focus and to align with our congregational theme, committed to Christ. And so the lessons that we'll have will be based on that. And Brother Jeff Kelly will be leading us starting in March. So we're winding this series down. And so we're not using a PowerPoint this morning. We're going to go old school, but we were in Matthew 18 last week, and we are going to continue in Matthew 18. This is where we are as we're looking again at Jesus's ministry. And so last week we looked at, anyone remember what we looked at last week in Matthew 18? Anyone remember? Come on, guys. No one remembers what we did last week in Matthew 18? All right. Matthew 18. We were in Matthew 18, verse 15. You might remember we were talking about, in fact, we'll read it together now. In fact, I want to get a couple readers, please. I need two for this morning. Two readers. Mark will be one. I need one more reader. And Ramon. Perfect. So Mark will get us kicked off. What I'm going to ask Brother Mark to read for us will be a refresher for what we covered last week. And then when Ramon picks up, it will continue. Because Jesus is in the same place. He's talking to the same people, really about the same subject. So, Mark, I'm going to ask you to start us off with Mark 18, 15 through 20. And then Ramon, you got a long passage that'll come. And then when Brother Mark is done, Ramon, I want you to pick up at 21 and read to 35, okay? Thank you both. All right.
If a brother sins against you, go and show him his fault, just between the two of you. If he listens to you, you have won your brother over. But if he will not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of two or three witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. tell you the truth, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. And whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, I tell you that if two of you on earth agree about anything you ask for, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. Where two or three come together in my name, there I am with them.
All right, we're going to hold up. Thank you for that, Mark. We'll hold up one second. Ramon's going to continue reading in a minute. But again, this is what Brother Mark just read, particularly verses 15 through 17. That section is what we covered last week. And just as a quick reminder, I mean, again, Jesus starts out by saying, if your brother sins, some of your versions might say, if your brother sins against you, and then Jesus gives some instructions about how to handle that. And again, this has everything to do with someone sinning against someone else. And first it starts with go to him, reprove him, or admonish him in private, the scripture says. And he goes on in verse 15, it says, and if he listens to you, you have won your brother. And so as we talked about this last week, just a reminder that really verse 15 really sort of lays out for us the goal of the interaction. The purpose of the going to him in private, that person who is also a member of the body who sins against you, the ultimate goal of going to that person in private is to win your brother, meaning to win him back, or the inference here is for sisters too, if your sister sins against you, to win them back from their sin, to get them to sort of turn away from that sin. So he says, that's the goal of the interaction. He says, now, if he doesn't listen to you, he says, take one or two more with you. Witnesses, people who also have firsthand knowledge of this situation, right? And if he refuses to listen to this small group of individuals, it says, tell it to the church. Again, with the goal of not to embarrass someone, the goal is to try to get this person to repent, to bring them back. And so you tell it to the church, and even if he doesn't listen to the church, he says, let him be to you as a Gentile or a tax gatherer. That is a reference. In that culture, they would have understood that there was no fellowship relationship between Jews and Gentiles, and tax collectors in that society weren't very well regarded. So there wasn't really fellowship there either. So the idea there is that if that person refuses to change their ways, then you break fellowship with them. And even in that, the goal in that is to shame that person into sort of returning from their bad ways and to get on the right side of this thing. That's the goal. And this is what we talked about last week. So someone sins against you, this is how you handle that. Now Jesus, still talking to the same people, continues in verse 21. So Ramon, 21 through 35, pick up for us, please.
Then Peter came up and said to him, Lord, how often will my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? As many as 7 times, Jesus said to him. I do not say to you 7 times, but 77 times. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. When he began to settle, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. And since he could not pay, his master ordered him to be sold, with his wife and children, all that he had, and payments to be made. So the servant fell on his knees, imploring him, have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the master of the servants released him, and forgave him the debt. But when the same servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him
Well done. Well done. Okay. All right. All right. So, so a couple questions here. First of all, how many of you are familiar with this parable that Ramon just read, but that Jesus? Have you heard this parable before? Yeah. All right. All right. And so parables, as we all know, parables were but one way that Jesus would teach, but it was a go-to to him. He often used them. He didn't use them every time, but he used them often. And so here he uses the parable. And when Jesus does that, there is always a reason. There's always something that prompts him to teach in that way. What was the thing that happened, or who did something or said something that caused Jesus to tell this parable? What's the thing that happened right before Jesus starts teaching on this? Thank you. All right. So very good. So again, I just want to point out to us, Jesus didn't just sort of walk around and just start randomly telling parables. Often it was something that precipitated that. It was something that caused him to do the teaching. And Ramon rightly points out that in verse 21, Peter comes to him with a question. Now don't forget, now in Matthew 18, 15 through 17, Jesus has already done some teaching about someone sinning against someone else. He already does that teaching. Peter comes up and says, all right, well then how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? That's a good question. How many times, essentially he's asking, shall I put up with my brother who sins against me? And Peter says, well, should I do it? Should I forgive him up to 7 times? Seems pretty generous. And what is Jesus' response in verse 22? All right, so 7 times 70, some of your versions might say 77 times. What do you suppose, just on that, before Jesus tells the parable, what do you suppose Jesus meant by, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 77 times? What do you think he meant by that? I mean, do we take him at his word? Do you think he just meant that that's the number? The number is that when if your brother sins against you 77 times, on the 78th time, that's where you can cut it. Is that the number? I got 2 hands. Brandon, you had a hand?
I think he was trying to prove a point that you shouldn't try to quantify how many times somebody should be forgiven. It should be just an unlimited thing. Don't think about it as a number you're trying to reach.
Okay.
Think more about the mercy.
Okay. All right. And Joe's got a comment too, but for those in the back and those online, I'm going to first repeat what Brandon said. So Brandon says that he doesn't believe that Jesus' response saying that you should forgive your brother 77 times is actually a fixed number or a quota, but instead you think it's more symbolic, that's indicative of the fact that we should apply a standard of mercy where it's I think you said an unlimited number of times that we should forgive someone. Is that right? All right, that's what Brandon says. Joe, what do you think? What do you think Jesus meant when he says 77 times? So you don't think you can find inner peace if what now? Uh-huh. Right. Okay. All right, I appreciate that. So not a direct answer to my question, but you're putting another question on the table, which is, what I think hearing you say in your comment is just the idea of when we don't forgive someone, that means that we are holding something against someone constantly. And when we do that, then we can't find inner peace in ourselves because we are always holding on to something against someone else. Is that your comment? Got it. Okay. All right. So I appreciate that. And we might even get to that. Sam, I see you. Again, I'm just curious. I want us in this moment, I want us to stick on verse 22 just for the moment. Peter asks the question in verse 21, how many times how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Is it up to 7 times? Jesus responds up to, he says, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 77 times, or pardon me, my version says up to 70 times 7. 70 times 7. Brandon already said that he doesn't believe that that's a fixed number or a quota, but he believes that that is really symbolic language or imagery that really points to it should be an unlimited number of times. You got a comment?
Yes, if it was a fixed number, we would all be in deep.
And why do you say that? Sam says if it was a fixed number, we would all be in deep trouble. Why do you say that?
Because I think most of us have sinned 78 times.
Sam says we'd be in deep trouble because he believes that we've all sinned at least 78 times. So that would be a cutoff. Very good. 2 hands, Pop and then Jerry. Yep.
I think too, under the Jewish system, 7 was a complete number.
Okay.
So I think Peter in this particular thing, he thought he was doing well. He did it 7 times.
Yeah.
Jesus put an unlimited number of times. Anytime your brother is repentant enough to come back to you,
Yes.
then you forgive him.
Interesting. So anytime your brother's repentant enough to come back to you, I got one ahead of you, then you should forgive him. All right. And Jerry's got a thought. So I want us, Brandon said that. Sam said it. Brother Alvin has said it. So I want that to start to take shape. This idea that anytime someone sins against us and is repentant enough to come back to us, that we should forgive them. So I want that to begin to take shape. Oh, Ricky, did you have your hand up too? All right, so one second. Let me get Jerry, and then I'll come to you, and then it's to Gary. Yes, sir. Okay. Yes. All right. So emphasizing that point, that 7. So then probably Peter's selection of